Please stand for a moment of silence and salute to the flag.
No, this would be,
Wrong sheet. Okay.
we were all there.
It's only my second meeting, sorry. Out of the notice of this meeting was provided to the Cranford Chronicle, advertised on January 16, 2015. Notification was sent to the Star Ledger and probably posted on the municipal public bulletin board and filed in the office of the municipal clerk, forming the public with time and place according to the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act, Law, Chapter 231, PL 1975. Thank you. How do we say? Welcome back.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Welcome back.
Wow, February.
How was life?
I wish it was March.
Don't wish your life away.
Don, were you away for good reasons? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. Real good. Get away from here.
And I don't want to hear about it.
We liked it so much, we took the night off too.
That's right, that's right.
Okay.
I have a couple of things to do. My report, the one that you, well, actually, the only thing I can report is that the plans and specs for the DOT projects for this year have been completed and sent to the state, waiting for their approval. And as soon as we get that, we will go out to bid.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Borrello?
Not right now, it looks like it's later on.
No, questions is later on the agenda, it's on the, old business.
On a old business.
Well, because it's, yeah, it's old. It's
Oh,
not-
okay. I assume that.
He stays the whole thing. He stays the whole
Okay.
thing.
Yeah, I guess I do have one question. I received a complaint from a constituent and then noticed it myself at my house. Is there anything to do, when you go from the curb cut in the driveway and you go into the street, there's broken asphalt there, short of repairing the entire street?
In the street,
Yeah, in the
how
street.
the DPW might be able to make a repair, depends on how extreme it is.
Okay, so they would fill that, where they would
If
fill
it's in the
it.
street, it would be the town's responsibility to repair it if it had to be.
And then what would the procedure be with that person? Call Fred, something?
Yeah, call Fred and he'll go out and take a look at it, see what he can do. Now, this time of year is kind of tough because the only thing you get is some cold back. But if it's severe, I'm sure you can make a temporary repair and then you can be, better prepared and repaired in the spring when the weather clears.
Councilman, I would advise that the resident reach out to the borough clerk. There is a form that.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Perfect. Is that online?
That form.
Maybe you can answer that.
Usually it's filled out by your office, isn't it?
Yes, and
Oh, then-
the reason why we like the form is so we can keep a record of the, how it's handled. No, it's not.
Okay.
But I can add it, and I will.
Okay. All right, thank you.
No, it's not there, but I'll definitely add it.
And if you'd like, you can let me know the addresses too, because as streets and roads, rather than do. So that's something we've been discussing.
Which street is it on?
This one is in 345 Hemlock.
Hickory, it's already been, I think there's already been one recorded for a house number in Hickory Block.
Yeah, this one is Hemlock, and I don't know if mine, I have to confer with the.
Ours is pretty bad. We scraped it hard.
335 Hazel.
What was the other one I didn't
You're in
see?
Owen
345, Hemlock, Tina Simmons' house.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Let's see, I've done a lot of things, but you don't need to know. There are 3 ordinances for introduction. One of them is for the purchase of finance and tax software. Another one is to abolish the Construction Board of Appeals, the local Board of Appeals, so that the appeals would go to the county board rather than a local board, which my understanding is essentially non-functional because there's no business for it, hasn't had a case in 20 years or more. third one is to keep the snakes safe.
Just let them on.
That's all, Rick.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Renard? Administrative, sorry.
Yes, I just needed to mention that Mr. Steve Robot, bond counsel, and Mr. Warren Corky, auditor, and Ms. Sandy Bruns, CFO treasurer, will be at the February 24th meeting to explain the bond process that will be taking place in March. The resolution that you will be asked for consideration will be sent to you on March 10th. So on February 24th, you'll have the opportunity to have the procedure, explain exactly what you're doing, and ask any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions? No, we'll move on. Second, discussion regarding property encroachment at the Garwood Sports and Recreation Complex. Who would like to start?
Can I start, actually? I've got some information on that. Has anything transpired since last we spoke about this? Have there been any new letters sent or anything?
No, I just did what you told me to last time, which was to find out the status of all the encroachments, which I did, and I sent you all an email. Nothing else has happened, other than we got one more quote. Yes, that's the email. And we've got one more, we were pending another quote but the second quote didn't have anyway, so it
Okay.
doesn't have any relevance on it.
Then if I could just add, I've talked to and/or met with the three people who are encroaching. I'm gonna go 119 Willow, the easiest one, in the Coleman residence. She said that they're ready. They have vacated the property, and all she's done, she made a very reasonable request. She says her back fence is now leaning up against a shed or something she has back there. She has a dog. She just asked that, can we just remove her fence and put up the new one in one day, if possible?
That's in the letter that was sent to us.
Yeah, so that's just the one thing.
Tina sent that to us on January 20th.
And just in addition to that, there's just some other things going on. If there's any notice, one day at least, more if possible, that would be good. The other thing is Ms. Spratt, she's 116 Myrtle, I believe, still does not know where we are saying the property line is. She has asked if someone could come down there and say, this is where our property line is.
See, our property corner is in, so I can paint it up again. It was painted at one time.
Yeah.
There is a stake there.
There's a, well, PK nails, a nail in the driveway.
Okay, there is no, so, do we have to move her fence?
Oh, yeah, she's 10 feet over the property line.
The fences?
Yeah,
Okay, also, I confirm there are no sheds or structures.
that's correct.
Okay, however, I think she just needs to be told, and I was very frank with her about the discussions, that it needs to be moved, and we would prefer if she did it. However, we may do it, and there's a question of cost. All right, so she's just asking for guidance from us as to, hey, where is it, and what needs to be done. The last one is most problematic, and this is the gentleman I met with, Mr. Higney. All right, I believe he's on 160, he's on the other side of Borough, 167, okay? Long and short of it is, and I'll just say this without any judgment, I had a very frank discussion with him. Basically, he disagrees with us. He believes his rights are being infringed, okay? Very clear about that. There are two things. Moving the property line on, he has two sites that are encroaching. Moving the property line adjacent to his driveway to where we claim it is will render his driveway useless, okay? I'm just telling you the way he's looking at it. He's offered to make a deal with us, essentially, to give us a certain bit of property and no more. I explained to him that's not sufficient, but I promise.
Well, he wouldn't be giving us property, we'd have to be giving property.
We'd be giving him property, but in his view, he's giving us property, okay? These people, they feel aggrieved, Ms. Spratt as well, because they bought the house like this. They probably do the same thing we will.
Wait, I think he's got a 10-foot side yard, so it would not render his driveway.
Is
Well,
that the circular driveway?
No,
no, that's
That's
correct.
the one with the broken fence,
It's a blue house
on
when you come
the,
into.
right behind the baseball
the
field.
parking lot.
Okay.
Well, here's the issue. He has light wells on, for the basement, and he has brick walls around them. They're about 2 bricks high, maybe. With those there, essentially the driveway is rendered useless, all right? That is probably the more problematic side. The other side is he has not a shed, and I'm glad I went to go see it. It's actually a facade. It looks like a barn.
It's
Door. Lean-to, then with the roof in front of it. Again, what he said is if the borough is willing to move at its cost, his structure in to where we said the property line is,
That's not over the property line. So I don't know why he.
so we don't have, so,
There's nothing wrong with that. It's right on the property line, but it certainly doesn't encroach into borough property.
So
The
he-
fence has to be replaced or taken down. The fence is a foot or two inside it or outside of that, but that structure is right on the property line.
okay,
So is all we have to do, same thing there we would do anyplace else, and we would take the fence down,
okay,
which is not in very good shape, put up a new fence.
okay. Well, then what I would, the only thing that I would, then, and I guess Mr. Renaud, I would ask your guidance and the mayor and the rest of the council, is he's made it clear that if we want to proceed along the lines that we've indicated, that he's going to sue. And again, what I would rather see is this adjudicated beforehand peacefully and not have some type of altercation at the scene. And I just, I don't know if there's an action to quiet title, to clarify property lines, something like that. Or if we tell him this is what we're gonna do, you know, have at it if you want. But I just point that out. He's the one who, he basically objects.
Well, I don't mind modifying them. Actually, a quiet title is gonna cost thousands of dollars to bring. My recollection is, correct me if I'm wrong, Don, was that he provided us, we have our survey that shows that he encroaches, and that he provided a survey that shows exactly the same encroachment.
That's correct.
That's correct.
I don't know what his claim could possibly be. So,
Yeah, I'm just passing that along. I was very clear with what our position was.
Right.
And I mean, obviously the borough, I think, has the better argument here. However, I'm seeking more kind of how do we go about this? You know what I mean? Do you have a construction crew to show up there? Do you notify him and give him a chance to sue us? He just made it clear, hey, listen, I don't agree with what you said.
we could do that. I mean, we'll give him some notice before doing it.
Because that's the way I left it off with him. He basically said, if you intend, you the borough, intend to proceed as you've indicated, I'm gonna seek
Have
counsel.
we decided that we're going ahead with the price that we have for the,
We haven't
fences?
decided.
Didn't decide anything. That's what we're doing.
Quote I got was to install the fence, and then broken out of that is to take down the other fences. So that if we decide that people have to take them down, we certainly could order them to do that because that's not included in the price. Or we can take them down after we put up the fences or whatever. For example, his is gonna be very difficult to take the fence down after you put the fence up. We're gonna almost have to take that fence down before we put it up. Because there's a lot of other vegetation and things that have to be moved as well.
Now, is that just in the rear of the property, or is that?
No, it's on the side. The side's pretty tough because there's shrubbery growing on our property, but into his property. It would have to come down in order to put the fence up. Particularly out near the front where that large tree is, that large, like 36 inch oak, out near that.
In the back of the property, could we just put our new fence in front of his and just let him take down his own fence, so we're not
We
in
could.
a situation?
I'm not so sure we could, because the property line is between the building that Bob mentioned, it's right on the property line, and the fence, Jim, and the fence that's about a foot and a half onto our property. So in order to put the fence up, we have to take this fence down, because otherwise, how do you install it?
Outside.
And just a point of question, since he's on a corner, you're talking backside, like, we say like basketball court side or
Yeah, that's
baseball
fair,
side?
that's the backside.
Which is the back
The one-
basketball?
Yes, by the basketball, correct.
Correct. All right, you want to approach these like one at a time?
Yes.
Well, let's do this. I think I said I was gonna do this and didn't, but I'm not sure. Let me review the ordinances, see what we have, and whether it makes any sense to, if we don't, to propose a new ordinance to govern encroachments. We should have something anyway on encroachments because we have property that abuts other people's properties, so we really need to have something on encroachments. If there's nothing, I don't think there's anything in state law, so let me Let me review it and I'll report back at the next meeting.
Bob, I mean, I have no objection to that, Bob. We've been dragging this out for how long now?
2 years.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
having an ordinance on encroachments, I agree with, but at the same time, if it's our property, it's our property. I don't know what law or what we're gonna come up with.
Well, I'm looking in terms of cost, not if it's our property, if it's our property, you know, whether we can take the fence down and charge them for the cost of, you know, removal of the
But I
fence.
thought what you indicated a few weeks back basically was it would cost us, if we were to order them to do so, and they said no, it would cost us more to take them to court than it would to take the fence down.
Yes.
And I thought, maybe I'm wrong.
I'm checking to see if we can lien the property, that's what I wanted to check next. Is there, you want to, if you want to press ahead, I suppose we can press ahead.
Oh, you're saying actually develop an order to allow us to put a lien in for the cost?
Right.
Oh, okay. That's why we asked
Well,
this
that's
question.
a different question. Because the fact of the matter is, we have one property owner that already spent thousands to correct the problem, and another property owner that was indicated before that physically moved 2 sheds, when perhaps they wouldn't have done that if the borough's just going to
Right, and that's still
do
a
it.
question.
Right, that's why, I mean, we have a number of different situations that we're trying to address, and I'm trying to, you know, address them fairly.
All right, well, Mr. Mayor,
I don't think any of this stuff is going anywhere, so
No,
it'd be nice to get the thing finished.
you know, it's not, but it's just a matter of, you know, I think we're all shaking our heads, yes, that this has been going on for a long time. I understand what you're saying, Don, would you mind adding to what Bob has stated? You have a survey for each of those properties, correct?
No, we don't have a physical survey of each one, that was all part of the construction plans.
I have.
We have
I thought
we have a survey of her, of the.
I have surveys of all
We
of
have,
them.
okay. We have, okay. I didn't know we had a survey of
Yeah.
116 Borough.
Yes, I have I believe
Okay.
4 properties I have
Okay.
surveys.
All right,
I'm willing to share.
But we definitely have, the only one that has a problem, quote, a problem with what we proposed
right?
is, well, 167 is the one that seems to have the problem.
Right,
of us
167.
Going on his property or doing any work or.
right, but also, as Jim indicated, when 116 Myrtle,
They don't-
116 Myrtle, 167.
Okay.
But what I was gonna say was, if we have those surveys, and if Bob is going to, you know,
Yes,
figure
I
that
think
out.
we do have them, yes.
Yeah, can, you know, just those 2 properties, can you just attach them to whatever Bob's preparing, or Tina can send them out, so that we all have them, so we can sit here and, you know, see what all the issues are specifically, and make some kind of decision? I mean, Bob, when do you think you might have something back?
I'll report at the next meeting.
All right, that'd be great. Thank you.
I mean, Mr. Spratt, I think is really just needs to be directed or ordered to do something along those lines. I mean, again, I don't know how she feels about it, but I know if somebody were to tell me to move my fence on my property, even if the borough would pay for it, I wouldn't leave it up to them. I'd want to take care of it myself to make sure it's done right and that I have the right property line. So she's not necessarily disagreeing with us as 167 is. I think she just needs to seek some direction, like, hey, this is where we're telling you we're gonna put the fence, you need to take action.
I
Well,
can send her a copy of her survey.
The property corner, the front property corner, we didn't set, that was there. So whether she had it done or a prior owner had it done, it was set by the property owner. We did set the rear property line. We put a stake in the back with a lath next to it that said property corner. That had to be 8 months, 10 months ago. So, I mean, the location of the property line was pretty well defined. I don't know how, I know she's sickly, so I don't know if she's been able to see that or get out there, but they were pretty well defined.
Don, I know you've gone to these properties before, but perhaps you could go to 116 Myrtle and just let her know.
You know, I went there for months trying to see her, and I guess maybe she was in the hospital or something, because no one was ever home, or at least they didn't
Okay.
answer the door.
Okay,
During the
perhaps,
construction process, so I was there a number of times, but I'll go
okay,
back.
if you could try at least, I think
Okay.
that would be good between now and the next 2 weeks, when Bob will get back to us on whether putting a lien on the property is a possibility or not.
Maybe bring your white line marker and let her physically see where the line is.
Okay? Move on then. Any new business? Council like to talk about this evening? Comments and matters for discussion, or members of the council. I see Councilman Lawrence after it, so, Councilman Matthew.
Nothing for me, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Petroselli.
Nothing,
Thank you. Councilman Tarantino.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have an item. Over the last few years, we've had residents coming to the council meetings and complaining to individual borough council members about traffic and speeding along 4th Avenue. So, I'm sorry, I've had a cold all weekend, my throat is dry and I'm having trouble speaking. So recently, Councilman Petroselli and I met with the chief to address this issue. It's been a subject of, at the last few planning board meetings also, due to a recent application. And just over the years, people have been bringing it up at council meetings and talking to us individually, and we finally decided to address it. The chief, I'm sorry, let me look at my notes, I can't read my glasses. The chief has been addressing this subject. What he's been doing has been gathering data by putting the speed feedback signs on 4th Avenue and in that area and collecting data from those signs. And then he goes back and he puts officers with, to give violations to speeders in an attempt to slow traffic down and stop the speeding. I guess we realized that hasn't been necessarily working as well as we've wanted to, as we constantly keep getting complaints from residents in that area. So we're trying to address that situation now. And we're looking into, the police committee is looking into these permanent radar signs that are on poles, and you put them in the middle of the street, and they collect, actually the poles don't collect the data, correct, Chief?
Yeah, not the speed.
The speed poles don't collect data, but we're looking for grants to get these permanent radar poles. And those would also hopefully slow the speeders. I'm sorry, my throat is so dry, I can't even speak. The poles would,
We're in no rush, We're used to it.
sure, you can explain.
Basically what this pole does is it has like your speed on there. Okay, so when someone's coming into the area, it'll flash what their speed is, kind of like a reminder, hey, you know what, you're doing 30, you're doing 35, slow down.
Right.
So this is something that we want to try first.
We also talked about the speed bumps.
Yeah.
But we thought that the pole would work, the chief thought that we would look at a progressive attempt, the poles would work first.
That's correct. I think putting speed bumps in the roadway is a drastic start. I think we do it in a progressive manner. We go with a speed feedback sign on either end of the road. We try to slow traffic down that way, rather than put a physical object in the roadway.
Right.
Okay, the feedback signs will broadcast the speed of an oncoming vehicle, hopefully slow down traffic. With speed bumps in the roadway, you might divert traffic up North Maple to North excuse me, to North Avenue, same thing, to North Avenue, or past the school through the school zone. I don't want to see that. So we'll start in a progressive manner and address it that way.
Right, so you're looking into grants for the poles?
We're looking for grants. The Safe Walk to School program, which we took part of a couple of years ago, we were able to get some cautionary signs in front of the school.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can revisit that and see what's out there and available, we can offset the cost of the signs.
So I just want to let you know that we are addressing the matter, we've gotten a lot of complaints, and we're working on that to try to slow people down in that area.
Do we know how much those cost? Do we have to-
Yeah, there's several $1,000s.
Like over 5, under 5,
I think they're under 5. I don't have the exact number for you right now.
but probably close to.
But they're solar powered, they're permanently placed on the side. I shouldn't say permanently, they could be taken out. But the idea is to permanently place them on the side of the roadway. Okay, so it's not a temporary thing like my mobile traffic checker is, okay, which does collect data.
Right. And basically, I don't know if you guys remember when we had the school signs, they were installed by our DPW. They actually dug out and poured the foundation in order for those to be on. So it's something that our DPW can do again in order, to keep the cost down.
And then if we find that doesn't work, if we put them in, if we get the grants and we find that doesn't work, and then we can go to step 2, which is maybe the speed humps, and we have all the data on that.
Right.
But we'll try this first.
There are many different ways to calm CALM traffic,
Right.
okay? And it's all laid out in the Department of Transportation's guidelines and recommendations.
I have one question, Chief. The
Yes.
speed bumps, are they various heights, or there's just one standard height?
There are guidelines on them,
Okay.
okay? It's called they're called speed tables. And normally they're I believe a 5-inch incline, and then the top table is however wide you want that.
But I'm talking the actual height of the,
I think it's about 5 inches,
okay.
okay? To go by guidelines, I mean, you go through a lot of complexes, and you see just a bunch of mechanics on the roadway.
Yes.
They're not the standard. And you do need approval of the commission before you put anything in the roadway.
Oh, yeah.
Mayor, and I have that information here,
Yes, thank you.
if you'd like a copy.
Yes, please.
I would also say, I definitely agree with that as a first step, because speed bumps can also become problematic once you put them in. Now, when the plow's going over them,
Right.
it would become costly to keep replacing them
And
as
you have
well,
to maintain.
something to think
You
about.
gotta keep the paint up in all the cautionary signs that would have to be placed out there, the paint, and you have to maintain it as well.
Right.
And also somewhere there's gonna be a liability back to the town, people, zooming over them,
Right.
some damage to their car or something.
Well, the idea is that the residents are complaining, so we're looking into it and see what we can do to slow traffic down in that area.
Sounds good.
Very
Exactly.
good. Thank you.
One other question, where would you seek the grants? Is that a county or a state thing?
I have one of my officers, Lieutenant Wright, is my grant writer,
Okay.
and he has a whole website that he goes on.
All right.
For any-
I was just saying, if we had any contacts among state or county representatives, just let us know.
When it comes to
Okay,
traffic, you
yeah.
always do traffic maintenance department. We're doing have to assist.
Right.
Yes.
So we all work together, all the
Oh, yeah.
different traffic departments throughout the county.
But if we could be of help, just let us know if it, the state or the county would be the appropriate ones.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. You and your committees.
Thank you. I just have one more thing, and I apologize, Mr. Renaud. I don't remember, I was making a note when you were speaking before. I had asked you earlier before the meeting about what you were working on for me for the parking committee.
Mhm.
Did you mention that?
No,
Okay.
that
So-
was one of the things I said that I didn't have to talk about.
Well, I'd like to
Okay,
bring that up if you don't mind.
sure. You want me to talk about it?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I believe that you already know that Councilwoman has been talking to a number of, I don't want to mention names right now, a number of different property owners about commuter parking, so I did prepare a proposed lease for spaces, commuter parking spaces, is it 15?
15.
15 commuter parking spaces. I was in touch with the owner. We have the information, and I'll have to, I believe they're in agreement, but I'll have to send them the proposed lease now and let them take a look at it and see if they're in agreement. My understanding is that the idea of this is to provide some alternative places for people to park when we take them off the street in the residential areas.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. As I said, I contacted our representative to the RBSA, and so he will be able to attend our next council meeting on February 24th to give us an update. They have installed a meter next to the existing one, and he is hoping that they'll have collected enough data by then that he can include that in his report when it comes on the 24th. And also, we're all, of course, hoping on to hear a possible answer from him on whether our expected payment to the RBSA will change or not. So fingers crossed, everybody. The next item I have, I'm very happy to say that I have really wonderful news to report from New Jersey Transit about the item I brought up at the last council meeting, which is the current condition of the shelter at our train stop. Right now, it's basically very similar to a bus shelter, maybe 5-10 commuters at best can fit in that shelter. It's been especially challenging during the winter months here when it's 0 degrees out and so forth, or at least feels like 0 degrees. And basically I contacted the community relations representative at New Jersey Transit, and he got back to me last week to say that it is the intention of New Jersey Transit to replace our existing shelter with a larger one to accommodate more riders, and they do anticipate performing this work this spring. So this is actually happening pretty soon, and I think this is really excellent news. And being that I was approached by one resident about this concern, and now we see action being taken hopefully in the very near future to fix that problem, I think it really shows that it is important to have that communication between residents and council people, and that I know we say it a lot, that the more we hear from residents, the better we as council people can do our jobs. It's really true. So in this case, we have some results, and basically I was happy to help in this situation. Two other items I have, Mayor. One is just a reminder about the freeholder rotating schedule. This month is Councilman Matthew, and next month will be Council President Nearstead. And then another item I have county related. I have not forgotten about our prior discussion at a couple meetings about the matching grant requirement for the open space trust fund money from the county. So I contacted some state representatives first to talk to them about Green Acres and see if there's some type of state mandate overseeing these county grants, mandating that they be matching, and there is not. So I cleared that. And then I went on to speak to that state representative and find out that every county in New Jersey does have one of these trust funds, and many towns actually have their own as well. So far, based on my research, some of the counties certainly require matching, and then others include it as one of many considerations when distributing grant money. So as one told me, in a perfect world, they as the county entity would love the municipality to be able to match funds in order to go ahead with their project, but they realize that that's not always the case. Therefore, it's one of the considerations rather than a requirement. And so far, Atlantic and Passaic counties have it, like I said, as a consideration, but not a requirement. So it's something I definitely want to keep researching and digging about. So I will be in contact with all 20 counties at some point and get back to everybody about my findings. All right, that's all I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Council President Nearstead?
Thank you, Mayor. I apologize to everyone. I sort of use this as an update for the public, so I do have a number of items, but I'll go through them quickly. Have a drink first, yes. In 2014, we adopted, you know what, since Mr. Renata already brought that one up, I'll skip it. Number two, last month I advised my colleagues of a letter that the mayor signed regarding the commencement of the off-peak evening direct one-seat service to New York on the Raritan Valley Line and New Jersey Transit's apparent slight of Garwood, since we weren't included in any of the stops. Since then, I have spoken to Colleen Marr, who is on the Raritan Valley Line one-seat ride working group, who advised that they will invite a Garwood representative to the next meeting so that we can be included in their discussions and get our concerns addressed. She did advise me that Borough wasn't actually the only one. All the towns west of Raritan were also ignored. So they are aware of it, and we'll see if we can do something. I also advised of Garwood's first Martin Luther King in Service project, which was a super cracker food drive for those in need in Garwood. I'd like to report that with the help of the Borough of Garwood Celebrations Committee, St. Anne's Parish, Garwood Presbyterian Church, St. Paul's United Church of Christ, Grace Christian Fellowship Church, and New Community Church, as well as volunteers from Knights of Columbus and Garwood Fire Division, and ShopRite donations. We were able to collect over 450 soup cans and 75 boxes of crackers. Distribution is scheduled for February 18th. I want to thank everyone who contributed, and the groups plan on reconvening after the drive is completed so we can actually get an early start on a project in 2016. So if anybody is interested in participating, I'm sure you've seen after Martin Luther King Day what other towns have done, and some of the towns really do impressive things, and I'd like to add Garwood to that list. One of the items on the agenda tonight is Resolution 15-139, which opposes Senate Bill number 2412 and Assembly Bill number 3628, entitled the Water Infrastructure Protection Act. This resolution is in response to a request from Rowe Valley Sewer Authority due to their opinion that it would negatively impact ratepayers. Further research has also shown that the bill would strip away the ability of the Board of Public Utilities to review water sale prices. And one study found that such a deal could result in price spikes in our water bills of up to 64% on average. So I hope everyone supports that resolution in opposition.
Councilman, that bill was passed. Sign it.
Are you serious?
You're looking at, I told you all in a, email from the state.
That's a shame. That's a real shame. Just an aside to that, I mean, I know personally what has resulted in once the privatization of the water reservoirs occurs up in Bergen County. The first thing that United Water was the company that owned it. Once it was purchased privately by a French company, first thing they did was look at all the reservoirs and all the water resource areas around them and found what was the smallest area they needed to keep to have proper water quality. You proceeded to sell off everything else and build housing. So that's a real shame. Real shame. South Avenue need a redevelopment study. People have asked me what the status is. I have discussed the project with the consultant. They have started moving forward with background information necessary for the report. Preliminary environmental research is being conducted. Exterior photos have been taken, and they will be contacting the clerk, chiefs of police and fire, zoning officer, and tax assessor for related background. They did not give me a date for the report completion yet, but they are working on it. I was also asked about the housing study to get the borough compliance with COA, and I've also spoken to that consultant. She advised that she has set up the state monitoring files to add the information required as redevelopment plans are finalized. She will be forwarding a copy of the affordable housing ordinance to Victor Venegar, the board planner, to review to reconcile the outstanding density issues, and she should have the majority of the outstanding items completed within 1 month, so it can then be sent to the planning board and council for review. And that's it for my report, Mayor.
Mayor, just a couple
Yes.
questions and comments.
Okay?
All right. First of all, I want to say great job with the Martin Luther King Day of service. I think that was excellent. It's great to hear that you collected so much, and I know when I picked out the soup, I picked it out like it was for me, so it's kind of fun. But anyway,
We only had 12 dented and/or expired cans. So that was
I don't. It wasn't from me, for the record.
The one from 2012, I was wondering about.
Oh, okay.
Well, why don't you take them home?
Then the other item I had about the housing study, I remember attending that planning board meeting, and she had mentioned that the borough would have to hire someone, I forget the particular name.
Correct, yes.
It was mentioned, I believe it was mentioned, or I just thought about it, that maybe that's something we could do as a shared service, or get someone with experience, hopefully for lower cost.
Correct.
Is that something we should be exploring right now? Who would be the one to explore it?
I mean, we could, I don't think there's any need to yet, but yes, we need what they call a housing liaison.
Okay.
And yes, someone has to monitor it, someone has to respond to COA, someone has to submit the reports. And yes, absolutely shared service, no argument. I think it makes more sense to actually get the report from the consultants. We know what we're dealing with. And then we would know what we could send out in terms of an RFP or however we decided to hire someone. But yes, we absolutely have to hire someone.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have.
That's it.
Anyone else before we move on? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the mayor and council? Please step to the microphone, sign in, state your full name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bruce Patterson, 325 Will Avenue. The bond seminar, or whatever it's going to be, could you just explain to the public why we're actually going to be entertained with whatever that seminar is about? Is it about like short-term bans
It's
going?
not a seminar.
Not a seminar.
We're gonna be doing a bond vote or sale.
Are you going to do a bond sales coming up?
And this council needs to be informed, and that, at that meeting, if you would like to come, that's when you can ask all these questions of those professionals. I don't even know what's gonna happen. That's why I'm just telling them that next time they'll be here.
All right, but this isn't about conversion of bans to bonds, in other words. It's actually-
Again, Bruce, you know, the CFO knows, we're having a bond sale. I think Sarah
Yes,
knows
it's a
about it.
bond sale. Basically, it's a way
You're
to
selling
pay
it
off
out.
the debt that we've not had, that we've had
Like
since our
borrow.
last bond sale, which was a long time ago, probably
19
roughly, no, 2003, I believe.
Yeah,
2003.
2003. But Bob,
2003.
Refinance or?
maybe explain to him what we're
I
doing.
mean,
Bond
kind
sale,
of,
we're gonna have a
I
bond
think
sale.
of it as
I don't know.
as that in a sense.
Okay.
I mean,
This is the first time I heard about it.
I
A
got
bond
you.
sale is just sell bonds, that's, you know, that's
It's
what
a way
bond
to
sale is.
it's a way to permanently finance
Well,
our
you
debt
sell, I
that
mean,
we
you
have
sell
already.
bonds because you want to convert short-term debts into long-term bonds. That's what the purpose of a bond sale is.
It's basically, if I may, Mayor, it's, because Garwood's so small, we go to the capital markets very, very rarely. So what happens is we went last time in 2003, as Councilman DeDisco noted, and it takes a long time before we accumulate enough debt
Yeah,
to
the
really go
short-term,
and sell it,
the short-term.
the short-term bonds. So then what you do is you go and you sell them as municipal bonds with longer maturities. So basically, this, what happens in Plainfield probably very often, and happens in a town like New York City every day because of the size, happens in Garwood maybe once every decade and a half. So this is a big event for us, and basically, I guess they're gonna come and give us the lowdown on what it is we're gonna do.
Basically.
Right, exactly.
We're gonna tell you how much to borrow, and all the procedure.
And mechanics.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that, nobody's really up on exactly, what we're expecting. I mean, I mentioned it and Jim's backing me up.
I'm
Is that
sorry, we've
true?
been talking about it for a year.
Yeah,
Sarah,
Bruce
we've
has
been
done
talking about
numerous.
it.
Multiple years.
Well, why can't somebody just come out and give me an answer?
What do you want?
Yeah.
You got the
I
answer.
thought we did.
Councilman Matthew,
I mean, it was.
After 5 people, we're looking at each other. I mean,
Well,
I don't want
people
to
look
give
at
answers.
Bruce,
It
and
was a
they're gonna
simple
hear
question, and it seemed like, a lot of people didn't know the answer. And that's interesting, because I know one councilman up here is always arguing about debt and how high it is. But okay, I guess I got my answer. Yes, I will be there. That's a council meeting coming
I
up.
believe so.
Next council meeting.
Right. I know you'll be here, Bruce.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, which will be interesting, because it sounds like it's gonna be a long meeting, only because you have this, and then you have the RVSA, so I mean, there's 2 presentations.
We'll try to get.
Eat before you come, everybody.
Back to the Kutrachi days, it's back to the Kutrachi days, I can see that.
No.
You must have something else.
Yeah, of course I do. No, but the Fourth Avenue traffic, and speeding possibly, in the planning board, there was a Villa Route application, which actually the applicant's here, but they had a traffic engineer that did studies of Fourth Avenue. So, in the transcripts, you probably can, to be informed, you can probably get a hold of the transcripts and see that portion. Bill had access to the transcripts, I have access to it. I was just know about that.
Mr. Patterson,
They're on the website.
we all sit here, we all know it's a cut through between Cranford and Westfield. I mean, that being said.
Yeah, but actually, the traffic engineer comes out with numbers.
Okay, no, I.
So, and levels of traffic and, so.
It's good background research.
Yeah, it's good background, if you really want to know, if the neighbors are complaining or not, whether it's valid or not. And that open space trust fund, I appreciate you looking into it. To tell you the truth, the county has minimal to no accountability, so you probably could just accept the $20,000, you don't have to match it, they'll never get better. So I'm just kidding.
That's an interesting
Anyway,
one.
but that's just a comment. Thank you very much.
I don't know.
In the public session.
Yeah, in the public session, I guess.
Okay. Anybody else?
When you're in the workshop, I mean, just
Right,
in
we're in the
the
workshop,
public, I mean, just,
just
yeah,
answer.
I don't know, there's no order.
Is there any other people in the audience who'd like to speak to the mayor and council at this point in the meeting? No.
Yes, Mayor, we forgot one thing. There was a letter in our packet from Christine Guerrero requesting that this council give consideration to waiving the late fee that she had to pay because she did not get her dog vaccinated and with, I say vaccinated, use that word a lot, rabies, and get her license on time. We did receive it in the packet, it wasn't on any agendas or anything, forgot to bring it up. I don't know how my fellow council members feel. I know Christine for years, but I probably hate my comment on this, but, I mean, it's $5. And we start waiving late fees for this, but we'll waive late fees for other things. I mean, I'm of the opinion, just pay the late fee and be done. Next year, get the rabies shot a little early. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
Well, sympathetic to her, to her view. Do we have the power to waive fees? I didn't think we did.
I don't.
And as a governing body,
We do, Bob, we have the power to do that? To waive the fee?
Well, I mean, I don't know how many people pay late fees, you're gonna pick one out.
Well, we were sent a letter, this is the first time I've ever experienced this in 4 years, so.
Generally, in my office, people ask me to waive a late fee, that's my response. I'm not on the authority to waive a late fee, you can write a letter from mayor and council.
Okay.
This particular resident wrote a letter, but it happens a lot that people ask me to waive the fee, late fee, or any fees.
Right.
And that's my answer.
I agree with Councilman Houston that we shouldn't do it, and I actually question whether or not we even have the power to do that.
I question whether you have the power or not too, but I haven't given it all that much thought, to be perfectly honest with you. But I can tell you this, it would certainly be wrong to pick one person and not
Right.
charge that person
I know.
late fee if you charge
All
them.
right, then with that,
That's
would everyone agree to ask the clerk to send a letter back and advising that we'll have to waive the fee?
Yes,
Agreed.
Okay, thank you, council.
thank you.
Okay.
If we could put something, although sympathetic of the situation, we.
I know how to write the letter, Sarah.
I know, all right, I trust you.
25-7
I hope
strikes
so.
again.
I'm just
Thanks,
saying.
Howard.
No, I feel for the person and people in those situations, but
Marie advised me that we had to pay a late fee 3 years ago, so, I mean,
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
How late were you?
With
I don't
that,
know, I don't know.
Do I have a
you
motion?
late.
A motion to adjourn the workshop?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
7:50, please.
That's good.
I'm sorry, 7:50.